Yo, what's up guys? Wayne here. So look, we've been talking a lot lately about tiny machines here on Machine Heads. Mini skid steers, smaller electric skid steers and CTLs, tiny compact excavators, small articulated loaders. You see the trend here? And look, on one hand, this is the compact equipment channel. But still, there's been a lot of excitement around the smaller end of the compact segment, the smallest of these small machines. And look, sometimes it's easy to forget that there's still plenty. There's a lot of demand out there for large frame compact equipment as well. And that brings us to the subject of today's video, the Kubota SVL97-3. This is a really, really cool machine. Hot on the heels of Kubota's successful launch of the very popular SVL75-3, Kubota has launched a new Dash 3 model of its largest CTL, the SVL97. Now, Kubota, in its announcement of the SVL97-3, called this a refined compact track loader, offering upgraded performance, comfort, and serviceability. What does refined mean? Does that mean there's nothing really much to talk about here? Not really. Let's dig in. So the first major change to discuss with the SVL97-3 is the Dash 3 in the model name. The first Dash 3 CTL from Kubota was the hugely popular SVL75-3. The best way to think of the SVL97-3 in terms of context in the lineup is that with this machine, Kubota has basically brought its largest CTL, the 97, up to spec when it comes to comfort and technology to reach the same level as that SVL75-3. A smaller machine, a more popular machine, and up until this point, really a more comfortable machine and a more advanced machine. Now, the most notable way in which Kubota has really done this with the SVL97-3 is the new cab. On this new Dash 3 machine, Kubota has implemented the exact same cab design as the one found on the SVL75-3. Now, that means this cab is a one-piece sealed design. It's going to keep out dust and dirt much better than the Dash 2 model did, and it also does a better job of insulating you from outside noise as well. Plus, Kubota has also implemented a major improvement to the HVAC system in the SVL97-3. You're going to get 40% more airflow from this new system, and you're going to get better vent positions and better positions for the HVAC controls themselves. Plus, Kubota is now even including its heated air ride seat as a standard feature. Now, as you can imagine, all of these improvements add up to a much more comfortable machine in the SVL97-3 than what you had with the SVL97-2. There's also a 7-inch touchscreen display on board here with a standard rear backup camera and standard passcode-enabled keyless start. Now, the cab on this machine also features backlit switches, very nice whenever you're operating in low light, and it has delayed shutdown LED exterior lights that are going to keep the area around you lit up after you power down the machine and exit. But look, the improvements made to the SVL97-3 aren't limited to the cab and comfort and technology. Kubota has also made this a slightly more powerful CTL, and they've made changes that bring notable productivity improvements too. The Kubota SVL97-3 is still equipped with a 96.4 horsepower Kubota engine, but Kubota has increased both top speed to 8.4 miles per hour and rated operating capacity to 3,459 pounds. Now, on that ROC, that's an increase of 8%, or about 250 pounds, over that previous Dash 2 model. But you can also add an optional 300 pounds of counterweight to the SVL97-3 to get an extra 200 pounds more operating capacity out of it. So at the end of the day, with the improvements made to this machine, if you add in the counterweight, you're looking at a 14% overall improvement in total capacity. Now, the primary reasons for the increase in operating capacity, Kubota made the machine itself about 400 pounds heavier, and they reconfigured the geometry of the loader arms on this machine. Now, the reconfiguration of the loader arm geometry is pretty subtle. Kubota tells me that if you look at the two machines side by side, really the only difference between the Dash 2 and the Dash 3 geometry that you'll be able to outwardly notice is that the cross pipe in the back of the machine is now a little bit higher than it was previously. Subtle change, but it worked. Of note, Kubota has also implemented a new hydraulic pump on the SVL97-3 that has led to a significant increase in cycle time speed. Now, this new pump prioritizes flow between the loader arms, bucket curl, and auxiliary hydraulics, and that's going to make the machine much faster and operate more seamlessly, especially in multifunction operation. In fact, the change has led to cycle time improvements of 20%. In fact, Kubota says that it has tested the SVL97-3 at length against competing models of a similar size, and this new model, they say, quote, blows everybody out of the water. Now, on the SVL97-3, Kubota has also implemented a new auto downshift system. That brings the unit from high range to low range automatically whenever the SVL97-3 enters a turn or goes into a pile of material. And basically what this feature, gives you, the operator, is it allows you to keep the machine and, in your high RPM range, keep operating the machine in that high RPM range, while still allowing the machine itself to downshift automatically when it needs to. Now, another improvement focused on making operators more efficient is a significant increase in hydraulic presets for different attachments. Now, on the Dash 2 model, you could put in these hydraulic presets. You were able to program in 5 different attachments that had a preset flow. So for instance, if you picked up a grapple and you had programmed that grapple into the system previously, the system would automatically recognize the grapple, it would recognize that attachment, and then have the flow requirement ready to go for you. Now, the new SVL97-3 still has this feature, but it's much more flexible than it was before. Instead of just 5 attachments, now you can do the preset flow on up to 20 different attachments on this new machine. But in addition to being able to adjust the flow of each preset attachment, you can also monitor the auxiliary pressure in real time. So that means that rather than having to operate and keep your ear tuned into your attachment, basically waiting for it to stall, you can actually just watch the pressure on the monitor, or keep an eye on the pressure on the monitor at a glance, and be prepared ahead of time just by kind of like keeping an eye on what it does on the gauge. Now, one final efficiency and productivity focused feature here on the SVL97-3 is the inclusion of Kubota's shockless ride. Now, this comes standard on enclosed cab models of this machine. So KSR, for short, Kubota shockless ride, KSR is basically a built-in accumulator in the loader arm hydraulics that buffers the bucket, basically kind of softens the bucket as the machine is going over uneven terrain. In other words, this feature is going to keep material in the bucket when you hit bumps and other rough terrain. And as a bonus, KSR also provides a bit of cushioning to the overall ride inside the cab. Now, serviceability has also been improved on the SVL97-3. To start, this new machine has a much better radiator design that gives you improved access to the engine compartment itself. Now, on the Dash 2 model of this machine, you'd open up the rear of the machine and then you'd be looking at the radiator. And to get that radiator out of the way, you'd remove 2 bolts and then the radiator would pull back and tip. But on the SVL97-3, Kubota has switched to a swing-out radiator design. Once you remove the radiator bolts, the radiator swings 90 degrees out of the way, giving you much easier access to your battery, fluid fills, filters, and the engine itself. And as we mentioned earlier, there's that new one-piece sealed cab design. By removing 2 bolts at the corners of the front of the cab can be tilted up and out of the way for clear access to the hydraulic pumps, lines, and tanks for clean out and maintenance. The cab is also assisted lift, meaning that one person can do this whole thing. They can undo the bolts, they can lift the entire assembly up and out of the way, and it kind of locks into place for you. Kubota has also implemented additional clean out panels in the SVL97-3 to aid in the removal of dirt and debris as it builds up. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up our in-depth look here on the Kubota SVL97-3 compact track loader, Kubota's largest CTL. You know, a lot of times when a manufacturer introduces a new machine and calls it refined, sometimes that's really just a nice way to say that there aren't very many notable changes or even improvements to a new machine, but hey, we increased the model number by 1 anyway. That is really not the case with the SVL97-3. Now, to be sure, there is refinement here. The improvements to serviceability would be included in that, and maybe you could even argue that the 250 to 400 pounds of new operating capacity would also fall under refinement. But look, when you add everything together, when you add in the serviceability and the extra operating capacity, the 20% improvement in cycle times thanks to the new loader arm geometry, the improvements brought by the new, more efficient hydraulic pump, and just how much more comfortable and clean this new one-piece sealed cab design is going to be, how much just better and easier on the operator it's going to be day in and day out. It's really hard to argue that this isn't a substantially improved machine over the Dash 2 model that it replaces. I mean, just kind of think about all of those things. If you were to operate the Dash 2 machine, which is, dirtier, noisier, not as overall comfortable, worse kind of positions for the controls, a little bit slower when it comes to multifunction. If you hopped out of that machine and into this Dash 3 machine, I have a feeling that you would, you're going to be impressed. And honestly, that's exactly what Kubota has said that it's seen from people that have operated the machine as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. We always appreciate it. Hey, look, if you like this video, if you found it informative, if it's going to help you in any kind of way in your next rental or machine rental or purchase decision, do us a favor and hit the like button, subscribe to the Compact Equipment channel, and turn on notifications so that you get alerted whenever we drop new videos like this. It really, really helps out the channel and allows us to continue to bring you content like this. If you want more content, if you want more information on the Compact Equipment segment and more in-depth coverage like this, head on over to our website at compactequip.com. We'd love to see you there. And just stay tuned for our next video. If you have any other questions about the Kubota SVL97-3 for us or Kubota, drop them in the comments below and we'll try to get you that information. Otherwise, thank you so much again for watching, guys. We really appreciate the time, and we'll see you in the next one.